Hey, I'm Justin, and this is The Art of Repair. And once again, for the third time, we are on episode 19. I think I decided to do 19.x number, whatever font. I still don't really know what the heck I'm doing with this number thing. But anyway, moral of the story is we're here again, and we are doing another InFrame OnFlex solder job. But this time, we got the Galaxy S7 Edge. All right. This one's going to be a little bit different because we are actually dealing with a full metal frame here. We are not using a mid-frame, or we're not so much using. We don't have a mid-frame like we do with some of the other Galaxy devices. They changed their design on this one. So, yeah, that doesn't really mean anything because we're still able to do this repair the exact same way. If you have watched the original episode 19, then you know all we're going to need is a popsicle stick and for you to take out the battery, okay? Once you get to the point where your charging port is released, taking out all the screws, you're ready to rock. So on this one, the easiest way to actually get the port out would be for me to find my tweezers. Ah, there we go. Okay, so see right, I don't know if that would focus here. You're gonna need to come up under this flex right here and come across and kind of pop out the connector itself, and make sure that you take out the headphone jack because it is a separate connector. It is not part of the flex down here. It's not, so take it out. It's just going to ruin the entire thing for you. So I'm going to carefully put my flathead 2A SA tweezers directly under here, and like I said, I've already removed all the screws. I've already removed the headphone jack. I've already done my job here. You need to make sure you do yours too, and that includes the battery. You cannot do this with the battery on. Go check out the regular episode 19 for the explosion video. Man, that guy blew that phone up. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to carefully just lift it up. There is a microphone right here, and let's go ahead and see if we can jump in the... All right, so we do have a microphone right here, but cool thing about this, it is kind of on its own flex, so we can kind of push that out the way. We're not going to have to worry about that. If you watched the S6 video, then you would know that right about there would be a microphone jack, but you guys can see why I want to do all the different ones now. There's different pitfalls to each individual device, so it's really important that we go over them, okay? Now, I would say that the major pitfall on this one is actually going to be this FPC connector right here, okay? Reason I say that, it is directly right next to this, and not only is it going to prevent you from sticking your soldering iron directly like you would with some of the other ones, so you're going to have to kind of work at an angle there, but there is the possibility of reflowing the connector, which could cause intermittent signal issues down the road if it's not been done properly, okay? You guys can also see that this flex is a little bit different in terms of there's a lot of components missing. Just like all the other devices in this series, and I think this may be the last one that's like this, but this is a live demo unit from Samsung. These are not the same devices you would have out on the market. It does have the same flex down here, but actually all of the cellular stuff is missing from this device. So anything you see down here, I'm pretty sure has just got to do with cellular, so I really wouldn't worry about that. Other than the fact that if you are working on a live unit, that all of those little golden spots down there would be components, and you would need to watch out from reflowing them, okay? Again, we are working with way lower thermal mass, okay? Heat is going to transfer through the medium here much faster than it would through a regular 10-layer phone PCB, okay? Or maybe like a 20-layer plus like laptop motherboard, okay? Thermal mass is thermal mass. The more you have, the longer it's going to take to heat up or to spread out through that. So this one's going to be really quick, okay? So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and lift this thing up, just kind of get it out the way here. We're going to pull it back. All right, you guys can see it out of the frame here, very easy. And then it's popsicle stick time, my favorite. We use a popsicle stick because it's an insulator, not a heat sink. If you use a heat sink, there's the possibility that if you do not do this job appropriately, you can leave a mark in the back of the screen. I've seen a couple guys where, I don't know what they're thinking, but, you'll end up with a huge, mark on the other side here if you don't put something in between here. So I always choose an insulator, and it works really well for me. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Truth be told, this is a very easy repair, and I'm sure that some of you guys, after watching one or two editions of this, you don't need to see it anymore, but for all the people that have a Galaxy S7 Edge, I'm sure they're going to love this. So first things first, we do have some underfill. That underfill is right here, okay? This underfill is the Samsung underfill equivalent to the Black Apple stuff. Right around 160C, you're going to be able to start getting in there. You can see I'm tapping it. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's pretty hard. Let's see what we got here. We're going to go down to 160 degrees centigrade. All we're doing right now is loosening the underfill, okay? The reason that we're loosening it is because we don't want it all over the pins here, because these pins are going to need to be resoldered. And right now, this is not only preventing us from doing the repair, this is what scares everybody away from the repair outside of destroying the screen by trying to take the whole LCD, or I'm sorry, the whole AMOLED apart. These are AMOLED displays, not LCDs. All right, so I'm going to take my 1 pound steel block and I'm going to put it on the back of the device here. I generally do that so that nothing gets moved around and we have a very steady surface to work with. It's not going anywhere. All right, so first things first, let's get rid of the underfill. 160 degrees centigrade. Obviously, you don't want too high airflow. You're not really gonna like wet anything on the board, but no reason for all that right now. All right, so what I'll be doing is I'll be heating up the underfill and I'm going to start poking it. And as I start to poke it, it's going to start to break it down, and then we're going to work along the back wall and start to pull it out from the back. All right, but like I said, we really got to be careful of this FPC connector here because this one's a little bit trickier than some of the earlier models. You can see here, instead of clicking now, it's starting to penetrate into the material. All the poking is so that we know when it's time. And when you switch over to my number 10 blade, like I said, I'm going to poke along that back wall. Be aware this underfill doesn't just stop at the end of the pins. It actually goes up under the charging port into some of the traces. So take your time. There's no rush for this because at the end of the day, you're going to be doing a much higher quality repair by doing it this way. Yeah, we're getting there. How much underfill's on this one? Not too bad. There we go. See it all coming out? Obviously you want to be really gentle. Once the underfill hits that critical temperature and it starts to crumble, you're pretty much good to go. If you watched my my NAND underfill video, you'll know that I'm barely putting any pressure here. I'm literally just letting it go under on its own. You don't want to scratch this little board. It's only like 1 to 3 layers. Alright. Looks like we got everything cleaned out, so we're going to go ahead and take the port off. We're going to do this in the same fashion that we did the other ones. I'm going to be taking my amazing number 10 blade, or as my employee likes to call it, Old Faithful, and I totally believe in that because it is Old Faithful and it will always be Old Faithful. But we're going to take this right here, we're going to come up onto the side right about here, and we're going to slowly lift it off as we heat it up. So it is time for us to increase the temperature of our hot air station. We're going to increase to 300 and I don't know, really anywhere between 320, 350, something like that. Sometimes 330, 340. That whole beginning 300 range you can do this with. Wetting temperature on this stuff is, you know, around the 200 range. So, you know, all this is going to work. It just kind of depends on you. Let's pick 340 on this one. We're at 3/10 airflow. And before we get started here, I'm actually going to put some Kapton tape over this FPC connector here. That way I don't hit it with too much air. There's still going to be the possibility that it's going to wet because this is such a low thermal mass thermal system that it is going to proliferate extra quick. So this one's a little bit sketchier than some of the other ones we've been doing, but again, that's why it's so important that we go over every single one of these, you know, as soon as we can, really. All right. So as I stated before, as your hot air heats up, you can kind of preheat the area with it since it's not up to temperature yet. Getting there. And truthfully, at this point, guys, I mean, we're almost at a regular charging port job. I mean, every device has its own neighboring components you got to worry about, but this is just a generic charging port job. So we're going to heat up the component itself. We're going to try and bring that to temperature. Then we're going to hit our anchor points, and then we're going to come through. And by that time, we should have some wetting action along our actual base pins there. Heat up the component. Heat up our anchors. Alright, here we go. Alright, looks like we did that without disturbing the FPC connector down here, which is amazing. Alright. Woo, hot potato. Alright, now that we've got that out the way, it is time to change the alloy of what we're working with. Remember, the stuff that's on here originally is lead-free ROHS solder, meaning it's got not only a higher melting point, but it's got a very large eutectic range. So once it actually gets to wetting temperature, it's going to be between a wet and a solid state for a good second. Okay, it's, you know, it's not always the best thing to have. We're going to be changing it to 6337, which has a eutectic point more than a eutectic range, which is about the size of this razor blade, which is about dang near nothing. So we're going to go in, we're going to add some solder here, clean up the area. Right. Right. Always forget, every single time. There we go. Don't forget your exhaust. You don't want to be breathing this stuff. Remember, heat proliferates very quickly on something with such low thermal mass. Give me a little bit of that. Let's see. Make sure we get all that underfill out. Thought we had it, but if you see any like clear crud, it's probably just more of that underfill. Just need to clean that a little bit. Sometimes you get all of it, sometimes you don't. There we go. Sure, once again, there's no extra underfill because I keep feeling like it's there. All right. So now that we're cleaned up and we've added some more solder back to it, we can go ahead and take our new charging port. We can set it on top, flow it down into the anchor points, and then hit each of the pins there, and we should be pretty much good to go after a solid cleaning. So easy peasy, guys. Not a big deal. Nothing to be scared of. This is not that repair you really need to be scared of. There are much more ridiculous repairs that you should be denying people, but this one is not that one. So, all right. Let's get a little bit of flux under here. Right now, this part is probably where we would see some reflow on the FBC connector. I very specifically did not use flux on the removal so that I could watch the eutectic state a little bit better. But obviously, now that I'm applying, we need to make sure that there's a barrier to prevent oxidation and to keep everything solid, so we may actually get better thermal conductance, and we'll probably get a little bit of wetting on the FPC connector. So let's make sure we watch that. We're going to go ahead and set our component here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to heat up the component, and then we're going to heat up the pins just a little bit. We're going to let it flow down, and we'll push it right into the anchor points. Once we do that, then we will hit the pins, which will be the fun part, considering we don't have a lot of clearance. Alright. Here we go. Sometimes I feel like my desk is too messy. There we go, we got wetting. We're actually going to add a little more flux. I saw a cold joint here on the side. You really don't want to have any cold joints. Cold joints are not solid. They're not electrically sound. That would be this bad boy right over here. You see how it bulged up around the edge? That is not a good joint. That is not the kind of work we want. So let's make sure we clear that up if possible. There we go. A little bit of flux, a little bit more flow, and we're going to be good to go. So we've got our anchor points in there solid. Now we need to actually remove the Kapton tape and be very vigilant and careful so that we can make sure that these pins have a good amount of solder on them and they're making solid connections. Okay, so I'm going to take a look here. And we'll say for the most part everything is flowed up around the pins. There we go. So we've got a little connection under it. And you can see here how we fixed that one on the corner. There's still a little bit of that underfill though. Let's see if we can clear that out real fast. And we really don't want that stuff in there. This port came off of another S7 edge, so it may just be residual from that, but no worries. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my little chisels here. Let me see. I'm actually going to kind of work from above like that so that we don't come near the FPC connector, okay? I'm flipping my workpiece to the side here so I can get a better angle at it. Work smarter, not harder, guys. Don't try and kill yourself just so you can keep the phone in one direction. There's no point to that. Alright, there we go. Does not look like we had any kind of reflow on that FPC. I'm putting a little bit of tape right now on the popsicle stick so that I can weigh it up so I can see these pins just a little bit better, okay? I think this is going to be a little hard for you guys to see. I'm not sure. Oh, man. Might be easier. There we go. Y'all can see now. Yay. Alright, let's get out another piece of solder, get some flux on the end of it. In case you were wondering why I don't put flux on things, it's because I dip my solder directly into the flux. So, not too much, not too little, works great for me. I know a lot of people use syringe flux, but I'm old school, so. Alright, let's get in there. Baby bridge there. Little bitty baby one. Let's get that out. There we go. No damage to our FPC connector. Solid joints on the end of every one of our pins. Great non-cold joints on our anchors. Man, this popsicle stick is coming through one device at a time. Man. Alright, so at this point, we need to clean up our work area, and then we need to test it to make sure that the current is actually running through. And that's the easy part. So, let's find something to clean up. Like I said before, if you want to make sure you're careful with your microphone, with this one, since it's on its own separate flex, you can kind of put it aside, but you know, you can always grab around it and hold down really tight so that that little hole is not, you know, accessible. Use my little brush here. This is a acid brush. You can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link. All right. I always use 99% isopropyl to clean this stuff off. And I love these things. Alright. Alright, looks like we got solid connections there. Let's mount this thing back in and see if we get a charge. Where's the battery? That ain't it. That ain't it. But that is it. Alright. Alright, so like always, here's my battery pack. here we go. I either got it or I don't got it. Actually, let's switch back. There we go. I either got it or I don't got it. What do I got? Oh, he's got it. Live demo unit. I've got so many of these. It's ridiculous. I love them. They're cool. They're unique. So, anyway, I hope you learned something today. I hope that it was good for you to see the device that you're trying to work on and checking out the pitfalls for that device. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you turn on those notifications. So you got to slide over. I mean, it is literally like 1 inch on your screen. Just notifications, all right? On top of that, you should totally like this video if it helped you out. And if you have anything to say, hit me up in the comments or head on over to the mobile repair subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/mobile repair. We do have a thread going on about the original episode 19. And yeah, join on in. We'd love to have you in there. We got a bunch of people in there that would love to, just talk it up and, chop it up. So anyway, my name's Justin, and this is The Art of Repair.